Rodric here, and if you are wired like me, you are an entrepreneur, you know that your business mind never shuts off. And in this video, I just want to tell you about my 30 years of experience and the tips and tricks and programs and tools that I use to avoid burnout, how to deal with my partner better who's maybe not wired that way, the twin cycles of rest and creativity, why we only have so much creativity and energy in a given day, what to do about that, and ways to schedule downtime and rest, scheduled rest, and just make sure that 10, 20, 50 years from now, you have that same passion and creativity and drive that you have now. So if you're like me, I was a little kid when I started figuring out that I could basically hustle and make money. We didn't really grow up with much, and I knew if I was gonna buy a Nintendo or a bike or some new Converse All-Stars or whatever the thing was, I was gonna have to do it myself. So I wasn't 9, 10 years old when I figured out that this huge garden we had, there was like 2 acres of garden behind our house in Michigan that it was all gonna go to waste. It was too much was planted, and I made a deal. If I could go and sell the stuff in my front yard, I'd split the profits with the people in the garden. And it was my parents, my neighbors, everybody that had these different fruits and vegetables. And I had more money than I knew what to do with when I was 10, 11 years old. And I'm buying bikes, I'm ordering pizzas, I was living the dream. But it taught me that there's always a way to go out there and hustle and make money. And I don't have to rely on someone else to give me a wage. And that's really what started my entrepreneurial journey. And I went on from there to, every candy drive at school. And speaking of candy, I figured out that, my parents could take me to Sam's Club to buy tongue splashers, if you remember those, it was gum, and sell it at school for 50 cents a piece. And I'm making a fortune at school until they finally outlawed it. And then fast forward to car intakes and automotive parts and real estate and construction. And it's the exact same principle. It just ended up being much bigger things that I could do faster or better and make a profit in the meantime. And the problem with this is I view everything as a business opportunity. It's just they became successively bigger things. But you see puppies, you're like, oh, how could we sell those puppies and make money? This video setup I have, well, could I package that and sell it to somebody like Ken Okazaki does? There's just everything is an opportunity, and it's really hard to shut off. And I learned early on in my entrepreneurial career, how to set boundaries, how to schedule rest days. And I learned that my creativity each day really had a limited time span and how to schedule those things. So that's what I want to talk to you about here. Let's talk about just the struggle to turn it off. I think what has helped me the most is twofold. One is meditation and gratitude practice, which it may sound a little woo-woo, but that is literally what meditation does. Is it starts to slow your mind down, the monkey mind down. And nobody's perfect at it. I'm still not perfect at it, but I try every day to get in at least 2 meditation sessions. And I have found during those times, a friend of mine, Steve, a long time ago, he said, if you ever shot skeet with a shotgun, it was that same as those thoughts enter your mind, you just shoot them down, they're gone. And the idea is not to not have any thoughts. That's impossible. It's just not to focus on the thoughts. And everyone has their own practice, and there's 1,000 other YouTube videos you can go out and talk about meditation. But I just think that mindfulness and the meditation and that ongoing practice of just slowing yourself down is extremely beneficial for entrepreneurs and business owners and people who just have trouble shutting that thing off. The other one for me is time management. I learned early on when I was building houses, I'm available from 6 in the morning till 5. And at 5, I'm not, unless it's on fire or flooding, I'm not answering your call, and I'm not looking at email anymore. And as an entrepreneur, you can work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you can pick whatever those times are. But having that scheduled downtime and honoring that in yourself is a really powerful thing to do. We all get the urge. I still get the urge to want to check my email. I just don't. And every time I don't, and I give myself that rest, it builds that little muscle in me, right? So it's just setting those boundaries and knowing that the time you have as an entrepreneur, and certainly as you graduate into bigger and bigger businesses, you're paid to think. You're not paid to do. So you have to give yourself the space to think. And certainly in my 20s, you grind and grind and grind. And you're not necessarily more productive or creative, you're just exhausted. And that's not our fault. That's the way Western civilization has taught us to think about productivity. And I feel that guilt like anybody else. If I'm not moving forward, I'm falling back and I'm getting behind. And it took me a long time to realize that rest is a really important piece of that. I was a I'll sleep when I'm dead guy for a long time. So I think that kind of leads me into the second thing, which is just the twin cycles of creativity and rest. And having no tech days, whether it's 1 or 2 days a week where there's no screens the whole day and you just allow your mind to think, going out into nature, all these kind of, again, it sounds kind of woo-woo, and if you're in the corporate environment, for sure, you're in some kind of boilerplate situation, or boiler room situation, it is going to be crazy to hear these words come out of my mouth. But if you look at any of the greats, go back Edison, Ford, Vanderbilt, doesn't matter who the person was, they all scheduled weekly rest and they scheduled extended breaks. Roosevelt, name who it is, where they would take a week, 2, 3 weeks off in the summer just to think, not to produce anything. And all the visionaries and creatives of our history, the best ideas come during those times, not when they're grinding on the laptop, not when they're making this video. It's when I spend the rest of the day today's a Saturday, but the rest of the day today just sitting and reading and enjoying nature and going for a walk with my fiance, and the downtime, really embracing the downtime. And those twin cycles of really deep functional rest and then massive creativity, they're important. And then you can also break those things down into a day. And everybody's cycle is different and everybody's cycle changes. I used to be more of a night owl. I would sleep a little later and I would work into the night, do the same thing the next day. And as an entrepreneur, I can make my own schedule. So now I'm up at 5 or 6 every morning. I don't schedule appointments till 10 or 11. So those first few hours of the day are reading, reflecting, working out, doing all the me stuff that fills my cup, and then understanding the trends I've seen over the years where the most important work I need to do, and we talk about your right next thing a lot around here and in my coaching practice, whatever that right next thing is, I know I need to do that between 8 and 11 in the morning. It's 9:45 right now when I'm making this video in the morning, because by 2, I'm not going to want to do it. And it's not that there's something wrong with you. It's that we wake up every day with a limited amount of creativity, and the way you utilize that is different for everybody, but you only get a certain amount. And here's a good example. If you've ever seen how a lot of highly productive, highly creative people, they set really rigid routines, or they wear the same black shirt every day, or they eat the same thing all the time. They eliminate decisions, because every decision you have to make throughout the day diminishes that creativity store, that energy store that you have. So eliminating decisions and knowing that I need to use my creativity towards this next right thing that is the best for my business is just something to be mindful of as you start each day and you schedule each day. So early morning for me, fill in the cup, me time. Mid-morning, call it 8 to 11, is most important thing I need to do that day. No interruptions, no appointments, just pure focus on that one thing. And then it's appointments and less important tasks and things that are kind of mindless. And then you got to shut it down. You shut it down at 5 o'clock and you don't do anything else. So it's just that daily commitment to understanding that you have limited capacity, the peak times you need to use it. And now that you're thinking about this, you'll start to recognize what those times are. And it may be 6 to 9 p.m. for you. Now, everybody's situation is different, but understanding when you're best able to complete those things is just something that has 10x, 100x, 1000x my creativity and productivity over the years, and allowed me to create monster businesses that we ended up selling. And now here I am talking to you, but imparting the same principles in my own life that I teach to my clients. And another thing I want to talk about is similar to that twin cycle, but it was during book launch. And anytime you undertake a really big project like this, book launch was incredibly exhausting. The day before, I posted a video and I said, I don't know if we're going to sell 1 book or 100,000 books tomorrow, but I know I gave it my all. It was really long days and just a lot of that creative energy just every single day for months leading up to launch. And ultimately, it was a massive come down after that. And my publisher warned me about that. My friend Jay Wong, who does our podcast, he works with a lot of authors. He warned me about that. And I'm like, I've done this 1,000 times. I've launched a million things. Not a big deal for me. It was a big deal for me. And I think that same cycle that you can put into a week or a month or a year, it matters for specific things that you're doing too. Think of it like running a marathon. You have all this prep for running a marathon, and then you have to take some time after that to rest. You just can't go out and run another marathon the next day, right? The exact same thing happened to me during launch. So it was this tremendous up. We hit #1 bestseller in every category. We had new releases. There was so much love and support from friends and family and community and just strangers, and that huge amount of adrenaline and endorphin release and everything that led up to that day. And then the come down from that over the next few days. And I was talking with my coach about this, and for me, the book was a very vulnerable thing to put out there. It's a lot of my life story and ups and major downs that is now in the Library of Congress. I mean, anybody can go and read this thing. And I wasn't ready. My energy was low. My creativity was incredibly low. And just my willingness to put myself out there those next few days or weeks. We're at a month right now, 30, a day after a month since book launch. And just this week, I finally feel myself again, if that makes sense. So you have to take it by day, you got to take it by season, and then you also have to take it by project. And it's okay not to be okay. That's the big one. And it's okay to rest. You have to look at rest as important as your workout, as important as a business meeting. You need to schedule that time with yourself, schedule downtime, schedule time to think, put it in your calendar, 9 to 10 a.m. thinking time. There's nothing else you do during that time. So anyway, I could go on for days about this. I hope these few tips, if you are wired like me, help you maintain that passion and that creativity and that drive that you have now for the next 1, 2, 3, 10 decades. And I wish you absolutely nothing but the best on your journey. So we'll see you next time. Cheers.